Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wolf and welcome to a preview of a game called Poi, or as I personally prefer to pronounce it, POI, because I think it stands for Place of Interest. I'm not sure if the developers were planning on that being the whole thing, but I previously recorded a preview for this and found out that I'd been pronouncing the game's name completely wrong. I'd been saying POI the entire time, whereas everyone else says Poi. Pronounce it however the heck you want. I'm going to go with POI. Actually, I'll stick with Poi. But this is basically developed by a company called Polykid, and it's been in development as of the 7th of November 2015. So without boring you any further, I'm going to start a new game so you can actually see what the hell's going on while I play in the background. So POI is an adventure platformer throwback to the 90s era of classic platforming games, which is pretty cool. I thought that was something that really got my attention, and it's inspired by classics like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and Super Mario Sunshine. You see a bit of dialogue and story going on in the background as well. I'll try to get through it as quick as I can for you. But the story is basically about a kid who's on a journey to become a master explorer. And they do that by uncovering the secrets and mysteries in the world of POI, or Poi. And that's basically your job. The story is a bit basic, but it does suit the game, the type of game that it is, fairly well. What some of you have to keep in mind is that because it is a throwback to the 90s, these sort of games didn't really have big stories or anything like that. They weren't heavy on that sort of thing, and that's not entirely a bad thing. They're very family-friendly games and geared towards kids who just want to hop on and play, basically. And as expected, you could see before, while I was going through the dialogue, it's pretty childish, and that's pretty much a giveaway that it's a family-friendly game. Now, gameplay-wise, there are a few different features here and there, and as you saw, actually I didn't really show it up, but you can choose to play as a boy or a girl. This doesn't really affect the story in either way. It was just a nice little feature or touch that they added to the game. So your main objective is to explore small areas as well as challenge levels to obtain something called Explorer Medallions, and in order to get them, you have to pull off quite a few different platforming techniques, and this can involve things like running, jumping, wall jumping, triple jumping, rolling long jumps, flipping, bouncing, balancing, climbing, sliding, swimming, and apparently more. So there's quite a few. And as you will have noticed, you can collect coins, as you will have seen me doing in the background, and these can be used to purchase new explorer tools. As you play, you'll need to earn experience points in order to meet new characters and unlock more worlds to explore. This is where getting these explorer medallions that you're seeing right here, this is where getting them can come in handy because they give you a big chunk of EXP, or experience. So we're going to go grab this one now. There is the adventure aspect of the game as well, naturally, and this involves exploring 4 different worlds and even the skies of Poi in search of pretty much a total of 30 explorer medallions. I'm not sure if this is just what they have planned for the early access of the whole game, but either way there's 30 of them to get. There are challenges as well, and the whole point of these challenges is pretty much to just set the fastest times at online leaderboards across 5 challenges, so nothing too fancy or over the top there. So my gameplay experience with this game so far has been pretty good. I found that each zone is actually fairly open and not so linear, and by that I mean you can choose which medallion to go for, even though it lets you pick at the start. Actually, we'll show you here, because it'll let me... Actually, no, it won't. It'll let you pick which medallion you want to go for, and even if you're aiming for that one, you can sort of grab another one while you're in the middle of going for that one. So it's not 100% strict or anything like that. So here it's basically explaining to us what this zone is. This is the first zone you pretty much get in the entire game. Okay, let's skip through this dialogue. Okay, we're going to aim for that cozy canyon or whatever it is. I kind of regret starting a new game because I can't skip through all this crap now. I kind of want to get straight to it. Okay, let's go travel. So it should allow me to pick which medallion I want to go for. Okay, it only lets me pick the one, but in this section you get like a whole list of them you can pick. But we're going to go for the main one now. There are multiple objectives per zone, as I mentioned, and this does give a bit of replay value because as you gain your EXP to go to the next zone, you might want to come back to another one to continue playing. And the controls are very nice. I found that they were simple, and the controllers actually use it's utilized pretty well. I found that pretty much all the buttons on the controller are used. There are a few small issues here and there with the gameplay. One of those being that the camera does need just a tad bit more work. I found that it can have a bit of a mind of its own here and there, especially when you're going up against cliffs or little ledges and things like that you need to go across. The camera seems to struggle a bit in those areas. The other issue I found is that when you complete an objective, it sort of like when you get a medallion, it takes you straight back to the airship that we were on just before. I think it shouldn't really do that. I understand that it does that for the narrative point of things, but I think for all the other ones, it should just let you continue playing. Now, in terms of graphics, the game's actually doing pretty well. There hasn't been any performance issues that I found. If you look in the top left, you see that I'm hitting 130 frames. This is pretty much on a 980 Ti, but you probably can run this game off an onboard graphics card. So it's not a very resource-hungry game, and you'll see that the visuals are pretty nice. They're combined with very simple yet semi-detailed graphics, so there's nothing... It's not too basic, but it's not too detailed as well, and that's sort of expected for the kind of game that it is. Visually, it's appealing, and it complements the game fairly well. You know, you look at the game and you think, yeah, this is a pretty friendly game. It's not something that I'm going to get into and experience like Dark Souls-esque kind of gameplay or anything like that. There are cutscenes, as you saw before, and one thing that I really liked about that is that the cutscenes transition... Oh, you just saw the camera sort of going a little bit nuts there. The cutscenes transition to and from gameplay seamlessly, and that was something that was really nice. Let's just get a few of these coins over here. Now, we're going to discuss a bit about the audio, which... One of the things that irks me a bit about it is that there's no voice acting. Now, again, keeping in mind that this is a throwback to the 90s, it's something that I've tried to keep in mind. And back then, they didn't really need voice acting for a lot of the games. You'll notice that even with things like Super Mario, pretty much all of his dialogue consisted of things like, "It's me, Mario," and that was about it. That was pretty much all he said. Ooh, what's this thing? Oh yeah, that's a little bird thing you can pick up. But yeah, there's no voice acting. I would have liked it there was, but there isn't any, and it doesn't necessarily mess with the game much, so I don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but I still like what the game's doing. Music is pretty childish as well. You can hear it in the background as I'm playing. It suits the game really well. Yeah, I think it's spot on, actually. It's childish, not in a bad way. It emphasizes a very friendly game, pretty much. Although I have found that at times the music can be a tad bit overpowering. This might just be my setup and the way that I've got it set up. So just keep that in mind. You can turn it down in the menu, which isn't too much of an issue. There's some pretty good ambience in the game as well. And this makes the environments feel a little bit alive when you get closer to certain things. As you notice when I got close to this thing, I don't know if you can hear it now, but you could sort of hear the wood turning and things like that. So it gives the game some life. There are some situations where the sound effects are a bit too low, but this can sort of be ignored, and that was a good thing. It's a very good thing. I would have liked if they added a bit more oomph to the sound effects in this game, though. I have no idea where I'm going right now. I'm sort of focused on speaking and playing at the same time. Not a very good idea. But yeah, actually, we can go and take a look at the menu now, which is pretty much the boring stuff. So, the menu, this is pretty much your graphics settings. You know, you've got your resolutions. You've got, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. You've got your quality settings, which, as I said, it's a very low-end game, so you don't really need to play around with this stuff too much. You've got your audio settings, which are very basic, you know, music, your sound effects, which is great and straightforward. You've got your game settings, where you've got your camera sensitivity, your camera momentum. I'm not really sure what those two... I'm guessing camera sensitivity is how fast the camera moves. But camera momentum, I'm not too sure what it does. And then you've got your inputs, you know, which basically explains what's going on with the game. So, the only thing I have to point out about the menu is that it's lacking an inbuilt feedback option. I mentioned this time and time again, that when you're doing an early access game, you really need to have some sort of... something that's easily accessible for players to provide that feedback. Okay, I don't want to interact with the sign. I want to get up. Okay, there we go. So yeah, moving on to updates. I found that the game does... It has been updating itself fairly well. Now, here's a medallion. I think this is the main one we're meant to go for. It's going to take us back to the airship. But yeah, they seem to be updating the game every few weeks here and there, but they stopped during January, picked up again during February, but since the end of February, March onwards, I haven't seen any updates. I don't think they've abandoned the game, but it looks like they might be planning something big for the next update, hopefully. But either way, you can find the release notes and updates on the Steam's... You can go to the Steam store page and find the update history there. So that was something that's really good. I like when the developers at least have an update history. So moving on to the closing point of this preview, I don't really want to discuss too much more. I do find that POI does actually take you back to those times, and this is really good for me because I missed out on Nintendo 64. I actually had to go to a friend's house to play these games. Well, here we go, we can buy some of these things. So I'm going to buy a telescope. Thank you. So yeah, I had to go to a friend's house to play these sort of games, so I didn't really get to take them in as much as I really wanted to. And this is good, seeing something as good as this, that's a throwback to those classics. It's great because it gives people a chance to sort of experience this era of gaming, but with a new, refined, and modern-day touch. So I'm really happy that this exists. What else can I buy? Okay, I can't get that yet. I wonder if I jump off, will I get the parasail, or will I just die? I'll just die, okay. But yeah, at heart you can see that POI is pretty much... It's pretty much a kid's game. But it does have something to appeal to a wide audience. So yeah, there are situations where you still hear people talking about Nintendo 64 games about 15 to 20 years after playing them. I think if POI adds a lot more to this... If the developers add a lot more to this game, I reckon that it has potential to receive the same sort of praise. But that will also rely on today's generation of gaming, basically. Of gamers, I should say. Because I really hope that the community does take a chance, or does take the time to look at this game and give it a chance, because it looks like it's doing alright. I haven't seen anything that's really bad about it. I don't have too much negative to say about it. My experience with the game so far has been nothing but pleasant. But when I say that it needs more, I think that the developers could do more things like add some more action, add some enemies, because right now the game feels a little too basic. I don't think it will survive on just the platforming aspects alone. But yeah, if you're interested, this game is actually going for $14.99 on the Humble Bundle store. I will have links in the description for that, so you can check it out if you like. If not, I would still highly recommend following this game and adding this game to your wishlist. It's worth keeping up with it. I know, because early access can be a bit off-putting for some of you, and I agree. Early access, you never know. I mean, the developers haven't updated the game for a month. Like I said, I don't think they've abandoned it, but it's a bit hard to speak for them when you don't really know what they're doing, or you're not really familiar with the developers. So be wary of that, and just follow the game if you're concerned about that sort of thing. But yeah, as I said, links will be in the description. And you should let me know whether you're thinking of playing this game, whether you would consider following it or wishlisting it. Otherwise, you should let me know if you've played things like Banjo-Kazooie and not Nintendo 64, Super Mario. What was it? I think it was Super Mario 3D World or something, Super Mario World. I can't overly remember what it was. But you should let me know what some of your favourite aspects of those games were, or what your not so favourite aspects of those games were. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Actually, I mean, if you got this far, you probably did. And I would like to take the time to thank Polykid for allowing me to showcase this game on my channel. And I would also like to take the time to thank each and every one of you for watching it. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot if you do, and it would mean even more if you could actually go and just have a look at the game. You don't need to buy it or anything like that. It's not a sponsored video or anything like that. I would just like it if you would go and take a look at it. Give it a chance. And especially if you're one of those people who did play some of those oldest classic games. I myself did. I didn't get it a chance to full-on play them, but I can really see what the developers are going for, and they're doing it very well. It's, you know, it's taken inspiration from these games really well, but they've added their own touch to it, so that's something really nice. Anyway, I'm going to end that one there, and as usual, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the next video.